Good day, everyone. This is Irish, and I am now going to discuss to you all about the second language acquisition. So stay tuned. To start our discussion, let's first define what is second language acquisition. Second language acquisition or sequential language acquisition is learning a second language after a first language is already established. Many times, this happens when a child who speaks a language other than English goes to school for the first time. The arrival of new immigrants annually into the United States results in additional language minority students in our school. In year 2000, it was estimated that 8% or 3.7 million students were English language learners or the ELL students. This is according to National Center for Educational Statistics year 2015. By year 2012, the presence of ELL students had increased in approximately 9.1% or 4.4 million. So what does this ELL student mean? So an ELL student is the one who does not speak or whose English limitations preclude the child's ability to fully participate mainstream English instruction. Now let's discuss what is English language learning characteristics. So it is surprising to many educators that most EL students are born in the United States, although 80% of their parents are born outside the country. So coming from 400 different language backgrounds, 70 to 80% of EL students are Spanish speakers and 12.6% are from Asian and Pacific backgrounds. ELL students are often at a socioeconomic disadvantages compared to their non-ELL peers. It is because a disproportionate number of these students live in poverty. Most of ELL students have education than the parents of non-ELL students. Slightly more than 40% of the parents of ELL students have not completed high school compared to only 9.3% of the parents of non-ELL students. So the parents of EL students, especially those from Mexico and Central America, do not compare favorably with the parents of non-EL students in other areas such as education, employment, and income. Asian language immigrants is the second largest EL group do not experience the overall poverty issue that the Spanish-speaking group face. Over 87% of Asian parents have high school diplomas, but there is a high level of diversity within groups, particularly when Southeast Asians are compared to the other Asian groups. Now, the acquisition of English skills serves both social and economic needs. Motivation is usually high. Without linguistic acculturation, assimilation into mainstream society may be impossible. So, this in turn effectively keeps non English speakers out of many job markets. So, in the future, educators can anticipate increasing numbers of students whose primary language is other than English. So that's it for the English language learning characteristics. Next in line is the rule of first language and second language acquisition. So most children acquire the first language naturally through constant interaction with their parents or significant others. So knowledge of their first language play an important role in the process of acquiring and learning a second language. Some concepts acquired through learning their first language, example Spanish, can be transferred to a second language, example English. So when a comparable concept in second language is encountered, English speakers should not think of Spanish, French, Chinese, or any other languages as consisting of words that is translated, basically transformed into English. So there are words and concepts in all of these languages for which there is no English equivalent. So there may be no exact English translation to convey the same meaning. So for example, Byong in the Chinese Cantonese dialects is translated into English as fragrant. However, Byong has no exact English translation. So the Chinese have a very distinctive meaning that conveys not only fragrance, but a multisensory experience. When Cantonese speakers say, That food that they have placed in their mouth is byung. It is it may imply that it tastes, smells, and feels very special. So the failure of schools to build on a child's first language during these early years may have serious consequences in the learning process. So this observed that language behavior suggests that ELL children should be allowed to develop a firm group of basic concepts in their home language prior to instruction of academic concepts in an English-only environment. So research demonstrates that when children are provided a strong educational foundation in their native language, they gain both knowledge and literacy, and this powerfully supports English language development. This is according to Crawford and Krashen year 2007. So that's it for the rule of the first language in second language acquisition. Now we have here language proficiency. So first, let's define. So language proficiency is a measurement of how well an individual has mastered a language. Proficiency, it is measured in terms of receptive and expressive language skills, syntax, vocabulary, semantics, and other areas that are demonstrate language abilities. James Commons, 1996, is a prominent researcher in language acquisition, found that many ELL students failed academically after completing English as second language training and being placed in a monolingual English class setting. Cummins found that in 2 years, these students were able to acquire adequate English communication skills to suggest to their teachers that they were prepared to function in a monolingual English class placement. Cummins also found, however, that the basic language, which he labeled basic interpersonal communication skills or the BICS, are adequate everyday conversational skills but inadequate to function in a high level academic situation. An example of BICS is playground English, which relies on non-linguistic cues and context that is used to facilitate communication. Example, gestures and other nonverbal cues. So BICS, Commons Educated, is primarily social rather than intellectual. It requires less knowledge of the language and utilizes simpler syntax and a more limited vocabulary than is needed in academic setting. Added to that, Cummins also suggested that there are two reasons it takes much longer for ELO students to learn academic language that it does to learn the basic conversational language. So first, academic language is the language of technical subject matter, example, science, math, literature, journals, and other scholarly materials. It is very different from conversational language. As a student progresses through successive grades, they encounter words that Commons characterizes as low frequency words. So these are the words with Greek and Latin derivations. In addition to these, they are also exposed to more complex syntax, example passive voice, and abstract expression that are seldom, if ever, heard in everyday conversation. Second, academic language is what educators develop among native English speakers who are already fluent in conversational English when they enter school. So therefore, the ELL student is learning conversational English while classmates are at higher level, learning academic language. So Cummins believe that sociocultural determinants of school failure for those students are more significant than linguistic factors. Schools must counteract the power relation that exists in society, removing the racial and linguistic stigmas of being a minority group child. So this would tend to support Cummins' contention that ELL students who are functioning at the basic interpersonal communicative skills level may not yet prepared for more advanced academic. Now I have here the last part of the report, which is the official English or English only controversy. So in 1981, U.S. Senator S.I. Hayakawa, a harsh critic of bilingual education and bilingual voting rights, introduced a constitutional amendment to make English the official language of the United States. The measure sought to prohibit federal and state laws, ordinances, regulations, orders, programs, and policies from requiring the use of other languages. Hayakawa's effort made not only in support of English but also against bilingualism. So in 1983, Hayakawa helped found the organization US English and began lobbying efforts that resulted in a reported 1.8 million member organization and an annual budget in the millions of dollars. So this movement, also referred to as official English or English only, supports only the limited use of bilingual education and has mounted a major effort to lobby the US Congress to pass legislation to make English the official language of the United States. Added to this, the organization favors sheltered English immersion and it maintains its position that ELL students should be transitioned completely out of bilingual education and into mainstream English usage within a maximum of 1 or 2 years. So, official English has become a polarizing issue for supporters of the English only movement. English has always been the common language in the United States. Supporters of the English only movement believe that it is means to resolve conflict in a nation that is diverse in ethnic, linguistic, and religious group. So they also believe that English is an essential tool for social mobility and economic advancement. So that ends my report. Thank you so much for listening. God bless us all. Now I have here the last part.